Hello guys, I'm Shantanu and this is the Hindu and the PIB update for 3rd September 2017. The first important news as I found over the Hindu is that multiple court rulings haven't curbed ragging. Now ragging as we know is a very sensitive issue regarding the engineering, the medical and the degree colleges. A study commissioned by the University Grant Commission is saying that 40% students are still suffering from ragging. Supreme Court guidelines has been there in the year 1999 and 2007. Supreme Court had issued guidelines to curb ragging, and in the year 2009 Supreme Court set up a committee of mental health and public health professional to study the menace. However, there has been very little effect of these steps. Ragging is more prevalent among the hostel residents. It is more in the professional courses, that is, the engineering and the medical course, and it is higher among the males. Now, according to this report, there has been some factors which are influencing ragging. One of the factor is the individual appearance of the student. Second is the region of origin. Especially people from the remote parts of the country are facing the ragging higher with compared to the people from the towns. Language spoken has been a very important factor in this ragging thing. Especially their inability to speak English language is a very crucial thing, whether a student is going to be ragged or not. Sexuality and caste based ragging is also prevalent there. Now, what are the different surveillance tools available? It has been seen that ragging is less prevalent when there is a cordial relationships between the students and the teachers. That means whenever a student is facing a problem related to ragging, the teachers and the administrators must respond to it. That will help to curb down the ragging. Community like feelings among the different parts of an institution, the teachers, the different workers, the administrators and the students, it has to be there. Now CCTV camera, although it is a very popular surveillance tool, it is not that effective when it comes to ragging, because it may induce a sense of complacency among the administrators of the institution. Now, surprisingly, some students have reported that they are enjoying ragging, and their arguments are that ragging helps build confidence. Ragging develops the personality traits. Ragging toughens the mentality among adverse conditions. It prepares the student to deal with the tough world outside. Now, when we want to give counter argument, it is very dangerous thing to normalize ragging, because the students are socialized to think that the world outside is a tough place and they need ragging for the toughening up exercise that will help them in future. So ragging, as we can say, that it is a very bad practice among the students in the degree courses. No matter how much normalization you are going to do, you are never going to support it. So to curb down ragging, one important fact we have already found in the previous page, that the relation between the teacher and the student and the administrator should be very interactive. So that is the first important news. Let's move on to the next news. Now, BRICS summit, the ninth summit of the BRICS that is going to happen in China, is taking the center stage in international relation in geopolitics regarding India. Now, the recently ended Doklam conflict is making things quite more important. But as per the report, India and China are unlikely to allow the Doklam conflict to get center stage during the BRICS conversation. As India is benefited by the open trade and investment, it is less likely to allow the United States to come into the way of joining China, because India and China both are going to be an important power in the near future. So Indian geopolitics is going to be in such a way that they don't want United States to intervene into things when there is already open trade and investment, the two important keys for economic growth. Now, there is a chance that Indian Prime Minister Mr. Modi and Chinese President Xi Jinping are going to have a one-on-one meeting on the sidelines of the BRICS summit. Now, if that happens, it will give a fresh and positive direction to this pivotal relationship that is going to give the world politics a new dimension. Now, another important keyword is there, that India Pacific Doctrine. India Pacific Doctrine focuses on the energetic engagement of the ASEAN, the island territories country in the Pacific Ocean. Now, it is going to feed the broadening of the Indo-China relationship. Now, if India has its power sharing in the Pacific territory, then definitely an India-China relation is going to be a sustainable one. Move on to the next page. The end of the Doklam crisis, no matter how did it end, but it only is reflecting the great power diplomacy. And despite having overall military and economic supremacy, China has recognized that India is an emerging peer in world politics. So, China's recognition will only help India China relations to get more cordial in future. Now, India opposes any formal docking of China's Belt and Road Initiative with the BRICS, but India would support individual bankable projects which are not declared as a part of the BRI. BRI stands for Belt and Road Initiative. Another important thing, that India has been calling for the early endorsement of the United Nations Convention on Terrorism. Now let's move on to what is United Nations Convention on Terrorism. It is a proposed treaty back in 1996 which intends to criminalize all forms of international terrorism and deny the terrorists, their financiers, and their supporters access to funds, arms, and safe havens. So, this Convention on Terrorism is all about suppressing the terrorism at the first hand. Now, the term terrorism is being a matter of conflict. It is not clearly defined yet. So, the UN Convention on Terrorism has not built any consensus till date. It is in deadlock condition over 2 decades. But there has been three protocols emerged. First protocol on international conventions for the suppression of the terrorist bombing that came into the fore in 1997, suppression of the financing terrorism that came into the fray in 1999, suppression of the acts of nuclear terrorism that came into the forefront in 2005. So this United Nations Convention on Terrorism is very important issue even for a short note when there is a discussion about terrorism. Let's move on to the next page. Another important part is that Nepal is going to sign the OBOR. Now, OBOR stands for One Belt, One Road. It is the ambitious project of the Chinese President Xi Jinping. Now, what Nepal is saying? Nepal is saying that this is not a military or a strategic initiative, rather, it is a commercial, that is, economic initiative. Now, if we think about the position of Nepal, Nepal was neutral during the whole conflict of Doklam, although there has been pressure on Kathmandu to take either India's side or China's side. Kathmandu has been equidistant from both the parties. Now, with Nepal's agreement, Bhutan is the only country in the South Asia that has not signed this OBOR with China. Now, Bhutan, in this case, we can discuss that Bhutan has no diplomatic tie with China also. Now, what is OBOR? OBOR focuses on improving connectivity, cooperation among the Asian countries, Africa, China, and Europe. It is going to connect these regions through land and maritime routes. It is mainly focusing on economic diplomacy. Now, China, after its exclusion from G7, this OBOR is going to give China a way to continue its economic development. Now, in this figure, we can see that from Xi'an in China to Venice, only one road is enough to connect this portion. Now, this portion comes Russia is there is Europe is there, and there is the west part and the middle part of the Asia. So that is an important initiative. Now, with this road, China can have economic cooperation with these different countries that is lying on the road. Now, regarding maritime route, there is Fuzhou and there is Venice. Now, there is only one route that is connecting the eastern part of China to the Venice, the Italian port. Now, in between, there will be Jakarta, there is Kolkata, there is Colombo, there is Nairobi. So, this is all about one belt and one road initiative. This is the belt, and this is the I've done the opposite. This is the belt, that is the maritime route, and this is the road. So, this is all about one belt, one road initiative. Now, this in short, this maritime silk route, that is the belt, it will take anything from Fuzhou to Venice via maritime route, and the Silk Road economic belt will take anything from Xi'an to Venice via the road route. Now, what are the different focus areas of OBOR? Is a policy communication. There will be trade facilitations among different borders. The use of local currencies will be there for the trade, and there will be people to people exchange. Now, India is opposing this OBOR from one perspective, because OBOR also includes CPEC, that is China Pakistan Economic Corridor. Now, China Pakistan Economic Corridor, it goes through some of the Indian territories, and there lies India's problem. So, India is opposing One Belt, One Road initiative, especially from the perspective of CPEC. Now, from PIB, there has been a news that the President of India, as advised by the Prime Minister, has directed the allocation of portfolios among the following members. Now, the member's name is not important. Why is it important? From polity perspective, who directs different allocation is the President of India in the cabinet. Now, he is not independent in this factor. He is going to be advised by the Prime Minister. So, who advises? Answer is Prime Minister. And who directs, that means who executes, is the President of India. So, this is a perfect relationship between the means the executive part and the implementation part of India. That is, there are three different parts. One is the executive part, one is the administrative part, and one is the judiciary part. So, this is the relation between the executive part and the administrative part. That means, on the advice of the Prime Minister, the President of India is going to give different ministries in the cabinet. So, another important thing is that Onam. Onam is an annual Hindu festival that has its origin in Kerala, and it is the start of the harvesting season. So, thank you for today, and have a very good night. Take care. Tata.